Hello everyone, how are you? It's been a long time since I've posted any videos, but I think we should cheer up and start the ride. I hope you're ready, because it's gonna be a long and very entertaining ride with some things that you'll never ever find anywhere else on Guitar YouTube. Let's go! Last years on YouTube, on forums, you might notice discussions and videos and etc. about how guitar coaches lie to people who want to learn to play professionally and tell them some weird stuff. And by the way, I would notice that not only it happens in guitar playing, it happens in many areas in our lives. And these people give advices to their subscribers and students on pretty serious topics that need pretty big investigation and knowledge, or at least personal experience that majority of guitarists unfortunately just don't have at all. Well, why I decided to record this video? Simply because maybe majority of guitar teaching materials are based on ideas and guesses of guitarists who somehow learned to play something, learning by shooting in the dark, and with that lack of knowledge, then to start earning money, they start manipulating their students, explaining them that to achieve what they need, they can play how they feel comfortable, or that they should play only like their teachers want them to. Just work more, it'll be fine, dude. Next one. But everything I teach is based on pure scientific facts, laws of physics, physiology, and biomechanics, and I didn't point a finger to the sky to find a way to learn to play something. And attempts of some bloggers to tell you that technique and physiology for each person works differently is pretty common manipulation. Plus, some things that you might hear on the net might be pretty dangerous for your hands and even time that you will spend on practicing. So that's why this issue is pretty important to talk about. I think you would agree that mostly those who want to learn to play guitar and pay money for it want to get some professional knowledge, right? Nobody wanted to spend hundreds of dollars to hear, dude, come on, play how you feel comfortable, man. It's all about soul, feelings. Just feel it, yeah. Just give me those $50, yeah. Feel it, buddy. Hear those 4-note lick. Play it for months, years, and decades. You'll be fine, buddy. I believe in you. Hands position, dude. Just play how you feel comfortable. Why? Because it's comfortable, man. I think you understand that what's comfortable for a person already didn't work, because he wouldn't go and pay money to take a lesson otherwise. So I guess something's wrong with this idea. Alright. Also, it's pretty popular on the net when someone can't explain guitar technique, they start saying, dude, come on, technique is not important at all. Nobody cares about it. But in real life, not in the world of luckiness, especially if you didn't get in those very little % of bands that became popular in 70s or 80s, or maybe you were just lucky to be such a good friend of lead vocalist so that he took you in a band. Mostly for simple people who just want to play in a band, if you look at stats, it's going to be a little different. Mostly you have few roads. First one, find a job in a cover band to earn some money. Find a job in a touring band to earn probably even more, if it's not a small band. Get hired to a pop star for the same goal. 4, become a session guitarist in studios, probably. And 5, start your own band to spend some money. But dude, this is what we all want and try, right? Yeah, I agree, your own successful band is the hardest thing, and it's a little different and funny. We'll talk about it a little later. Well, in the first 4, mostly they will take not the guy with the most beautiful eyes, but the one who can play better than all other candidates. Never late, looks good, doesn't like jazz, just like all other not perverts, and answer the phone calls even at night would be the best. So if there was a list of 20 people, it's not Olympics. There's no silver medal. Not good enough? Good luck, buddy. We'll call you back. Shortly speaking, go f*** off, you f***. And mostly, the higher you go, the bigger our demands. That's why stars usually hire best musicians. Mostly, they're all virtuosos. Why? Because even simple songs played by professionals sound much better with all those rhythms and details, and everybody on the top knows that. That's why they hire them. I showed many times how even simple things sound better if you have abilities in reserve. In your own band, if you don't own a huge business to support your ass and pay salaries to those who you want to see in your band, nobody from serious musicians, after listening to your demos, will even answer to you in DMs. They won't even take you serious, buddy. But even this all is still a perfect world. In reality, it's all much more fun. Usually, musicians, for instance, they know what G major is, are searching for musicians who are worse than them for their band. Why? Because they want to rule this band. And God forbid there's some guy who even knows A minor. Desire to be an alpha will outweigh potential benefits from cooperation, and while not getting any smart feedback from the leader who brought them all together, sooner or later you will come to this guy starting giving advices, and they will sooner or later start sounding like demands. And of course, such a huge attack on leader's ego won't last long, and life duration of this band won't be too long too. Mostly it ends pretty soon. So, until you really have a huge audience or enough money to say, you take the money and shut your fucking mouth! Until this moment, you'll be surprised how much it affects how other musicians are talking to you, how fast they answer your phone calls, and even how late they might be for your rehearsal. Funny? Ridiculous, I know. But those who work with real musicians, they will get the idea of how funny it actually is. It's really rare when it doesn't happen this way, but there are always some exceptions, right? So before you even start thinking, I just want to be a good musician, you will notice how big the influence of your abilities and professionalism is on your life. And the more you can, the better you sleep. Plus, there are lots of music styles where you won't be able to play any song without a certain level of technique, and this might be their dream to play that music. They can't live without that music, and if those coaches tell them, oh, come on man, forget it all, doesn't matter, nobody cares, this might destroy a lot of things in their lives, because they will spend years and years on practicing something, and it will not lead them to what they wanted, which is being able to play music they like. And it will, just crush their dream, and they will stop playing guitar at all. In all these 3-4 years of recording videos for YouTube, I only met few people who said, dude, you know what, I don't need any quality of my sound, I don't want anything, just show me a few chords, that's all I need, not my thing. In the beginning, almost everybody wants to be Gilbert, Bonamassa, Govan, in that list, and only then they decide what music they want to play. Everybody wants Lamborghini, right? Nobody wants Prius. And that is absolutely normal thing for everyone, I understand that. Pretty often you can see how people are trying to compare guitar playing to other professions, like driving a car, pilots, all that stupid things and jokes that have nothing to do with guitar playing, because in reality, building a technique is mostly pure sport, because we develop certain skills, control over intricate movements, also their speed and stamina, which is used mostly in sport. So now let's talk a little bit about sport. For decades in professional sport, technique that professional coaches teach their sportsmen wasn't only developed by years of experience, but also by scientists and their researchers. Nowadays, sometimes even tactics in games are being analyzed mathematically, not to mention the movements of the body. For instance, let's take swimmers. You can swim differently, right? Let's just imagine a situation. A student comes to a professional Olympic team coach and says, alright, you know what, buddy? I watch few bloggers on YouTube. Shortly speaking, I want to be a good swimmer. Very fucking good. a champion, you get it? But I feel that this technique is comfortable for me. And here you will understand one thing. When you're swimming somewhere in Florida on the beach with the girls, you can swim however you want and feel comfortable. But you can swim like that for years and work your ass off swimming like that. Even after 20 years of doing that, you'll still be a turtle. And as soon as you'll decide to become even a little bit faster and better, you will have to start doing things that are scientifically reasonable. And the faster you will want to swim, the more it will look like what in professional sport looks almost like synchronized swimming.
Now watch Pereira go. So Pereira third from your right, up towards the top of the screen.
But it's when you need to swim like a machine, not like a turtle on Florida's beach. So this is the swimming how it's comfortable for people, and everyone got their own way. And this is working professionally on results. And you can notice that their height is different, weight is different, physiology, a little different body shape, but it's so amazing how identical all their movements are. It looks like a coder took one swimmer and copy-pasted his data file 10 times. All movements, all turns, relaxation before throwing hands forward, all angles, everything is scientifically calculated like a math. And they are getting the swimmer as close as possible for his physiology to the most efficient technique that is made having all those laws of physics and biomechanics in mind, so that he could get least resistance in water, more powerful arm pulls, and keep an efficient breathing, and etc. But they don't let him swim like he would feel comfortable, thinking that after 20 years of swimming his ass off the comfortable way, laws of physics would change themselves just for him. Yeah, laws of physics ain't got no better job to do than change themselves only for you, my son. In gymnastics, figure skating, and other certain kinds of sports, they actually lose scores for deviation from perfection. That includes all deviations from perfect angles, degrees and splits, balance, etc., from how it has to be in a perfect world. Of course, you can be single-minded and say that technique works differently for each person. Mostly, no. Unfortunately for you, laws of physics won't work differently because of my or your opinion. In such serious sports, all techniques are scientifically very well thought out, and then they're trying to get humans as close as possible to those techniques according to their physiology, habits, and etc. For instance, how I do in my guitar academy, which is the biggest work with a person or student, but not vice versa. It's not technique that is changing for each person. It's different path for each person to get to the most efficient technique. Alright, some people are gonna say, alright Anton, I'm gonna destroy you right now. There are guitarists who don't give a shit on your advices. Look, playing the piece in 320 BPM with hand tense as hell. You got it? So now, Anton, shut your fucking mouth! And even students ask me that and send me this video asking why the hell are they doing all that weird shit for months with wrist dance, very accurate technique. What for? People do this shit differently. And by the way, before telling me what to do and spend months on your damn exercises, can you play that by yourself with your technique, you mother... Alright, I see two ways to work out this issue. Well, the first one is a long way. Well, firstly, you get few university level educations in physiology and biomechanics, learn the physiology of muscle contraction, single and repeating contractions, how Archibald Hale's formula on speed of muscle contraction with external load works together with all of this. I mean, friction with muscles, weight of your hand, and also lever effect from how your muscles are fixed in your body. Muscles in your hands sometimes take up to 50 or even 100 pounds load while lifting much lighter weights because of this lever effect. Even how much you lower the pick into the strings, and with that you increase the resistance of the string, which is sort of external load, and it decreases the speed of muscle fiber contraction. Plus, how different S and F motor units collaborate together, and just try to check it out. Personally, spend like 10-15 years on trying to disprove the science, or if you have friends like my father did when he was a professional sport coach, and they spent their lives on learning all of that, and they would simply tell you why even your favorite virtuosos can't controllably play faster than 250, 280, and being at the edge and shaking. It's not controllable movement, it's almost a tremor, like a tetanus. Well, if you spend all your life only to play fast tremolo and being very, very lucky with physiology like a mutant, maybe you would even contract your jaw muscles and play tremolo faster than 300 320 for some time, but like seconds or even less. But as I already said, it's sort of professional long way. But we don't talk quality with this thing. Even in 100-meter spring race in the last 60 years, the record became only on few tenth parts of the second faster. By the way, we don't know how powerful the wind was, and plus drug labs who create better and better dopings, they don't live in 60s, my son.
Nate, were you surprised that John Jones tested positive?
Everybody's on steroids.
And the second way is a little shorter. In reality, if you play guitar for a few years professionally and click on this video, if you know science, you will laugh only after reading the name of the video with this 320 and classical piece. Like, you know, come on buddy, surprise me, I'm very intrigued. Or if you're just experienced guitar player, your eyes are gonna feel a little pain from watching this thing, even from first seconds, since it's just a fake video for women who cook and watch TV with only one eye. You know, those who cut the potatoes looking at it with one eye and watch the Guinness TV show with the second eye like that. Because big part of what you hear, he doesn't even play at all, especially with his left hand. Right hand is just shaking 23-24 times per 32 notes that you hear, which is something like 30% slower from what it says and from what you see on the video. So it's around 230, 250, something around it. So the difference between the video and audio is huge. So and too often to be coincidence, you can hear notes that his fingers didn't even touch, even in 260. What 320 are you talking about, guys? So for the beginners, let's watch it. And we immediately see that right here you can hear C note, and there are only two C's in this area at the fretboard, and they're here. And he didn't even touch anything close to that C in tempo 260. Or you can hear clearly the A, G, F sharp and F, but his fingers are playing A, G sharp, G and F sharp. He doesn't play here, he doesn't even try to play, I think. You can see it with the naked eye. Definitely he can play faster and so on, but this exact video is fake, I'm sorry. And you can see lots of videos like that on the net. That's why, dear subscribers, be careful and learn to recognize fake videos just for Guinness show and real guitar players who can play fast and control it. And if any guitar teacher or blogger will manipulate you and show you this as an example of something and some technique, for any professional guitarist, it would be obvious that it's just a ridiculous thing. What control are we talking about in 300 or even faster if guys like that unfortunately lose control even in simple sequences here in 150 or 170, somewhere around it? Alright, getting back to such advices on the internet. I want to warn you from this sort of things. If you hear it from any coach that you can do it that way, it is very dangerous. Because if you're not experienced and you see devices like, dude, you can play it like that too, see that guy tense his arm and even jaw and achieve the speed, you can overplay and over tense your hand with wrong order of practicing routine, and then I get messages like these where people told me that they can't control their fingers or hand at all after experimenting with such shit. So don't listen to any shit like this. Be careful and always warm up properly and don't tense the shit out of you. Many people quit playing guitar because of this shit. It's incredibly hard to fix this thing. So always stay smart. That's why if you ask any professional guitar player, are such videos ridiculous? Any professional would tell you, yeah. And if someone continues proving this stupid theory, oh my god, better show the video where he allegedly played in 750. Dudes, there are guys who did it in 1600. It's 21st century, 320. Loser. And now we're getting to a real thing. And as examples, I want to take those guitar players who are, in my opinion, best guitar players in the world. Why them? Well, at least they're trying to prove something what they say with their hands and fingers, not like majority of bloggers with only words. And we'll try to find out whether even best guitar players in the world break the laws of physiology with their specific techniques or not, and also whether their techniques actually work how they want or not. So not middle-level guitarists, but high-class virtuosos. These guys achieved maximum of what their techniques could offer them. Of course, we should understand that different ways of practice affect your result as well. But these people achieved everything what these techniques could offer them. That's why I don't take beginners and middle-level guitarists who just put their hand like Gilbert and said, now I'm as good as him. No, you're not. To analyze it, we're going to make a list in a tabular form. So here we got list of abilities that we want to have in our technique from the left, and we're going to have the names of guitarists up here. When we fill this form, many things will be clarified for you. I've written here the list of all abilities of your right hand that everyone wants to have when they learn to play guitar. So we're talking about picking technique, not slap, not finger technique, we're talking about picking technique. So the first one is muting, being able to mute whenever you want with your right hand. Got it? Sure you got it. Then stamina. We don't want to get tired quickly, right? Right. Then dynamics. Dynamics is, you know, it's just in music it's incredibly important. Then speed. Well, in certain music styles you can't do a thing without speed. Sometimes it's an essential thing. Then clean string switching. if we're talking about having good sound quality, playing clean, not having that mess when playing anything faster than 160. Plus, if you don't want to get stuck only on two closest strings and you want to skip strings sometimes, nobody wants this sort of limitations, so we need it. Well, the next thing is not being dependent on amount of notes on the string, which means if you can play clean only with even number of notes on the string, man, that shit. And synchronization. Again, if we don't want to hear messy shit when we play, we need to develop a really good synchronization. And you need to remember that every little bad thing for these guitar players will cause 10 times bigger problems for you, because majority of you don't have that motility and experience like them in avoiding all those tons of problems that they know they have when they can't play something, and they learned pretty well to avoid everything dangerous. Even if it would sound cool, they just don't do it because they know they can't. So let's start from serious guys. For instance, Guthrie Govan. Let's go. So, can he mute strings whenever he wants? Yes, his technique allows him to do it. So we draw a plus. Can he play fast? Well, you heard those solos, right? Yes, he can, and that's why we draw a plus here too. Does he control dynamics? Yes, he's trying, and he does that pretty often. In fast tempos, he won't be able to do it everywhere, and always I'll put a plus and minus here, and we'll get back to the explanation just a little bit later, okay? So here we go, dynamics, here's a plus and minus. Are his hands synchronized? Not really. And now lovers of play how you feel comfortable theory are gonna understand why. Okay, to understand what is happening here, let's take a video where Guthrie talks about alternate picking. In this video, there are 5 moments where he tries to play fast alternate picking licks. Unfortunately, all those 5 attempts were unsuccessful. Let's have a look. When Guthrie said in this video that you don't have to move your grip because your hand doesn't really need any help to play a note, the funniest thing is he said everything correctly. He said everything right. But when he doesn't play fast, but plays in tempos in which guitarists usually practice, he by himself, well, well, you see it by yourself. So what's happening? When you practice some motion, majority of people are sure that it's our brain learning to send correct signals, correct equal signals to their muscle, or that it's muscle that is learning to contract fast and equally. But both are a bit wrong. The thing is that there's too much freedom for movements inside our body, and no motor impulses can make muscles contract exactly how we want them to each time we make a movement, no matter how equal those impulses are. It will just not make equal movement because of that freedom inside our body. elasticity of all mechanisms in our body can allow hand or leg get those signals without trajectory problems. Since you're not made of metal that can deliver any motions accurately, like a machine, for instance, or a car, there are a lot of elasticity in your body. Dozens of little factors affect your body, including in which direction the earth gravitates your hand, the blood flow, different tonus in muscles around, whole chain of joints on a way, current position of your hands, body, so many things, just tons of them. And if you would send absolutely equal impulses to your muscles, each time is going to contract a little bit uncontrollably differently. Each time. And our brain isn't learning to send the exact same signals to muscles, but it's turning on the mechanism that is called in science sensory correction. Not sure how it's called in English science words. And it starts editing the movement at the moment when it's happening, editing it each time a little bit differently, according to lots of different factors, to bring it to the considered goal. Sometimes each upstroke and downstroke, each one. That's how amazing your brain is. It's analyzing tons of micro factors from sensors from your body, all the things that are happening right now, and permanently editing the system which signals and when it should send to keep the needed trajectory. Then it's collecting the database of those different circumstances in which your brain edited those movements, their results, how exactly your brain edited them to create a program called skill. That's why in that sensorium you don't create just one sample of how certain movements should be done, but it's creating some sort of a program of maneuverability with huge database of different circumstances. Your brain is getting signals in one language, analyzes them, and then translates them all to a language of correctional impulses that it has to send to one or another muscle according to the goal that you're setting for yourself, the one you're directing yourself to. This is the exact reason why I'm always telling my students to think what they're doing. Watch it with your eyes, try to feel it in your mind first, what you have to get from your hand before you actually get it. Try to feel those sensations, so if you're not thinking about what you do when you practice and you're not analyzing it, just forget it, it's not practice, it's a piece of crap. This translation from the language of sensor signals to those motor corrections is called in science recoding of nerve impulses. Not sure how they call it there in English. So for instance, you play a scale da, 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 from hundreds of notes, and there was no equal signal from your CNS, I mean central nervous system, to your hand. So what happens with Guthrie? The longer the chain of joints in a movement, the bigger final deviation from the trajectory is. It's becoming something like a pool. You know, if when you hit the first ball and you miss just on 1 millimeter, it will move and the line will curve more as it goes. Of course, it won't have a good ending. It's probably a very rough analogy, but enough to understand it all. So the more joints are engaged in a single motion, the more information your brain has to edit at the moment while it's all happening to create those correctional impulses to get what you want from this motion. So in this case, twice as more information, because in playing one note you have two motions, one from your hand and another one with a grip. You've got two movements. Your brain has to process double amount of information. It was a work of Alexander Nikolaevich Bernstein, corresponding member of the Academy of Medical Sciences in Soviet Union. It was a province of physiology of activity. Alright, so plus he plays one way in middle tempos, doing a lot of that shit, and uses another technique in higher tempos, and that creates even more problems. Brain is just exploding from all that load he's getting. That's why creating a program for permanent hand synchronization to make it like an instinct may be scientifically possible, yes, but in the real world it becomes so much harder that you see simple lick on just one string and it's already a problem. And the last insurance shot to his synchronization program is a little tensed muscle that is pulling his hand up in this position with hand pointed up. So one muscle here has certain tonus and the opposite one here that is pulling your hand down is more relaxed at the moment. So how it affects the equability and control, no comments. And plus, just any tension in any muscle disimproves the control. So all of this comes together and Guthrie's brain just says, you know what, Guthrie? Yeah, you probably spent decades on practicing more than any guitar player in the world, but dude, come on, you don't even know what I had to learn and remember. So this is what his brain says to Guthrie. And you can see the result when he starts playing some fast licks with alternate picking, where it takes a lot of control, and the result is luckiness. Yeah, how lucky you are. If you're lucky enough, you get it once, and next time maybe not. But luck isn't a stable thing. That's why there was 5 attempts to achieve it, and all 5, even on one string, were unfortunately failed. Only in one lick he caught the synchronization on a few seconds and then lost it again immediately. The brain didn't create this stable program, just like in those really rare moments when he's trying to play fast licks with alternate picking. The best lick I've heard where he was lucky to get pretty good synchronization was in this song. And in the end, the same composition lost it again. And if you don't have good hearing, you can just slow it down and hear pretty big the synchronization. And for instance, the difference is just huge if you watch Paul Gilbert. After playing for so long, the synchronization is almost perfect everywhere there, because he used the same technique in different tempos, and in that time he didn't flex his grip. Now he doesn't really care about sound quality, but back then he did, and even that habit to flex it on the second note before his string switch, as I said in the video about his technique, I mean, this habit has been permanent. It was stable. Well, while we're talking about Gilbert, even my students like Michael Popov won't have that problem with stability. Michael will not. Guthrie's gonna have that problem, since the technique was designed better according to how our brain works. By the way, talking about this thing, it's pretty absurd theory to start playing fast from the very beginning if you want to play fast. Well, it doesn't happen that way. It's total misunderstanding of the process. It happens a little different. If you start doing it not having certain things prepared for it, well, you'll just learn that shit that you'll be doing in the beginning. It won't really be better in months or years. Mostly, all of them have problems, and you can hear that in their quality, sometimes synchronization, just lots of things. And as long as on my channel we don't just talk, we do things with our hands, I'm gonna take those 5 licks Guthrie tried to play and I'll play them all in one take, and there won't be any desynchronization because we know the science. Alright, let's go. Now I'm gonna play 5 Guthrie's licks in one take. Firstly, I'm gonna play it with my technique, then I'm gonna play it his way with his technique. Okay, let's go. First lick, if I'm not mistaken, it was chromatic scale. Okay, this one is done. There was no desynchronization. Next one was Paul Gilbert's lick. There was no desynchronization again. I can repeat it if you want. No desynchronization. The next one is the mirrored version of Gilbert's lick. No desynchronization again. The next is a pretty popular lick that many guitar players play in their solos. It's played on one string. As you can see, no desynchronization, and the next thing is the same thing on a scale, if I'm not mistaken. No desynchronization again. I can repeat it if you want. And there will be no problems with synchronization, or his way.
Yeah, Mr. White. Yes, science.
That's why, unfortunately, Guthrie doesn't have good synchronization and will always be very unstable, and he will be dependent on luckiness, not technique. And highly unlikely it will be fixed, because after so many years of learning that and doing the same thing, it is already an instinct. He's even stopping it immediately and doesn't really want to continue doing it for a longer period of time, because unlike simple bloggers, he has pretty good hearing and he doesn't want to play what's not really stable or sounds bad. So that's why, unfortunately, in this moment we put a minus. Sync A minus. Yeah. And now, stamina. Does he have a good stamina? Not really. And to understand that, we'll take a few examples. And firstly, understand why it's not a technical problem, but only problem of getting tired fast and collecting that lactate products in the muscles. And so that even if he's trying his best to control the muscles, they just don't give a shit, and they just lose control. And it's pretty easy to understand when it's happening. For example, if he's playing the same lick over and over in middle tempos, pretty good and clean, and then in a few seconds, like 5, 10, 15 seconds, he starts getting tired, and we can hear him hitting 2 or even 3 strings just to hit one single clean note. So all this mess takes place there, so let's just have a look. And then he's getting rest pretty often, legatos, 8 notes, bends, simple shapes, scales with 2 notes per string, because the more simple trajectory in your hand is taking rest while playing it. And if he wouldn't take rest soon enough, he would just get tired even faster, and it would just all become pure messy thing. So in the second video, he took one rest and then continued playing only with alternate picking again, and that's it. He started hitting wrong strings once, twice, again. If the sound was different where you can hear this mass better, even in just 10 seconds it would just turn into dirty mess even before his hands got tired, and it would just end really bad very soon. By the way, it actually ended with that dirty mess when he added just a little bit of overdrive. Starts getting worse and worse and worse, and if you would add even more gain, it would just sound like this instead of this. You get the idea. So we don't want that, right? I will explain everything. Wait a minute. But again, since we don't just talk, we work with our hands, I watched what his right hand is doing in these licks. We can understand that with the amount of notes he plays per string and those sequences. In the very beginning, it's pure alternate picking. No legatos for right hand. This work is identical if we play sequences in arpeggios. So I won't learn the entire piece. I'll do the same work with my right hand and even make it harder, because I will play the sequences on 6 strings, not just 4 or 5 strings. I will not have rest with 2 note per string shape scales. I won't have any legato, and I will have even more 1 note per string moments that are the hardest in energy consumption because of hard trajectory. So I will intentionally make it harder for myself, and you will notice that even after 10-15 seconds, nothing's going to change for me. We'll take his tempo. It's 157 BPM, 16th notes. By the way, with high gain so that you can hear if I start making a mess. Let's go. Okay, let's get back to work. And you can hear now 157 BPM. I took a high gain sound as we talked before. Less talk, more play, let's go. Close to 1 minute, right? I still didn't touch any strings. I can play like that for a long time. Maybe we should increase speed.
You're too fast.
Do you believe that my being stronger or faster has anything to do with my muscles in this place?
As you can see, what started happening to Guthrie in just few seconds didn't happen to me even after 1.5 minutes, and wouldn't happen even after that. Even though the lick is harder, I even started playing faster in the end. So we're coming to a question. Why? Am I more talented? No. Maybe you think I spent more hours working with it. I think it was totally opposite in this case. And again, we are getting back to good old science. Okay, our wrist joint, here it is the most universal joint in our body. Even nature made it so that we could do all the most accurate job with this joint and fingers. Not with our elbow. It can only move like this. We can't move it in other direction. It's very primitive compared to wrist joint. We can move our wrist joint like this, or this, or this, or this, and even circle movements in other direction. Doesn't matter. In our forearm, we've got antagonistic muscles. What is antagonistic muscles? So, when you bend your hand like this, one muscle that is dragging your hand in this direction is being contracted. Here's the first muscle. There's another muscle here that is dragging your hand in other direction. This is here. It's getting contracted to drag your hand in this other direction. So when you drag your hand in this direction, this muscle is getting contracted, tensed, and the opposite one is getting stretched at the moment. When you drag your hand in opposite direction, this one is getting contracted now, and this one is getting stretched. So the pair of muscles that are dragging the body part in opposite directions are called the antagonistic muscles. Well, despite the fact that our muscles have different types of motor units and fibers, and this entire object, the muscle itself, the entire muscle as a piece of meat, has got elastic properties, which means that the muscle itself as an object bows to the laws of Newton and other laws of physics, just like any other structure with the same elastic properties. So I made 3 drawings here. Look at this. What does it all mean? Well, this is the length of a muscle. It is the neutral length of fully relaxed muscle fiber. Just for instance, when we contract the muscle while we bend our hand, for example, one of those 2 muscles is getting contracted and getting shorter. Here it is. But since the muscle itself has got elastic properties, in the moment of contraction, it's storing the energy, the potential energy of elastic deformation that tends to get the muscle into its neutral, relaxed position, like a spring. And if we immediately stop contracting it, this potential energy will bounce it back into its neutral position, from here to here. The same thing is going to happen if we stretch the muscle, like I showed on this picture. So in the moment of stretching it, it's storing the potential energy, and it will bounce the muscle fiber back into its neutral, relaxed position from here to here after we stop stretching it. So, since I had a chance to work with my father, who was a professional sport coach, and talk with his friends who even worked in the coach teams of Olympic champions, these guys don't tell these things in interviews, since all their techniques and practice secrets are product of sport espionage. It's their gold medals, whole career. There are wars for each millisecond. They do it for a living. So I had the chance to get that knowledge, and I will try to explain you at least 5% from that in this video. Okay, so what I'm talking about here is called in science the recuperation of mechanical energy. But since you're not scientists and not professors, and highly unlikely you're professional coaches for Olympic teams, I will try to explain you that with a little more simple language. Alright, the recuperation of mechanical energy, or recuperation of potential energy of elastic deformation, is something that with very special technique and very special preparation and conditions, which is technique again, might allow you to use this energy that tends to get the muscle into its neutral position after contraction or stretching in order to improve the efficiency of energy wasting while using antagonistic muscles in cyclical movements. I know it's probably sounding really hard to understand for a simple person, but don't go anywhere, dude. I'll explain it to you. If you don't get it, just return back and re-listen it. Professional sportsmen with very, very scientifically correct technique that engages the recuperation of mechanical energy sometimes improve their efficiency of energy wasting in cyclical movements, up to 200%. Can you imagine how it's gonna affect your stamina? Exactly, a lot. Even when you squat and jump, you will jump higher if you don't do a pause down there while doing a squat. Squat and jump immediately. The same effect of elastic deformation muscles. It was a work of Vladimir Zatsiorsky in USSR. He was a director of All Union Scientific Research Institute of Physical Education. So you can see this effect if you throw your hand down in the bending movement. Really, really relaxed. Throw it like this. See the bounce? I don't get it up. It's bouncing. So I throw it down, but I don't lift it up again. It's bouncing by itself. So when one muscle from that antagonistic pair is dragging your hand in one direction, the energy that is storing in this structure after contracting help the opposite antagonistic muscle to spend much less energy on dragging the hand in opposite direction, because energy of this bouncing adds its own energy to a movement in opposite direction. Plus that muscle after stretching has some potential energy too, and helping you too in this opposite movement to make that relaxed bounce easier. So you understand the principle, right? You get it. And now just tense your hand a little bit, just a little bit, like tense on just 5%, and repeat this movement. You see the bounce? To get that effect, you have to create very special conditions and technique and preparation, and get rid of many natural blocks in your hand that don't disappear just from working hard with 4-note lick for decades, you know? Even if you work like Guthrie, you need very specific conditions and very specific technique. Without it, your muscles will have to spend all 100% of needed energy for each movement down and up, and get tired in seconds. But with smart technique and preparation and smart usage of recuperation of mechanical energy to its fullest, a lot less energy, that increases your stamina to its fullest.
Yes! Hell yeah! Hey, come on, baby! Come on! Yes! Come on! Ah! Yes! Yes!
By the way, remember those guys who were laughing at my students who were working with jars and weird exercises and wrist dance and said that his understanding of technique is no different? These people just don't understand it. Even one professor from one musical college once told me, "Hey kid, what the hell are you teaching there? Some weird shit. You don't know what you're doing there by yourself. Go to Troy Grady, he's gonna tell you what you do." Unfortunately for you, Mr. Professor, Oparin always knows what he does. And Troy, unfortunately, won't be able to see the recuperation mechanism because it's not something that you can see always on camera. It's a science, it's a different area. And if it wasn't part of your profession in sport or science, and you didn't get few bachelor degrees in very specific area in mechanics and biomechanics, or you got some friends who are professional high-class sport coaches or scientists, and will just share this information with you as a close friend, if not something like that, you will probably never even find out about that, right? Okay, so what about those guys who laughed at everything what I teach? There's a good effect called Dunning-Kruger effect. A fool can't understand that he's a fool. Because he's a fool, man. That's why if I would use Guthrie's technique and play the same thing, I would get tired fast too. If he wouldn't keep his hand in up position when this flexor is in totus, that destroys the recuperation. He's trying to be relaxed, but can't do it to its fullest, and also wouldn't bend his fingers into a fist like this when these flexor digitorum profundus muscles are getting tensed. Alright, just finger flexors. 99% of guitarists think that they're relaxed when they're playing. They even tell me that, Anton, yeah, I'm damn sure I'm 100% relaxed. But in reality, it's not enough in this area. I mean this one. And if only Guthrie would have done certain preparation with his hand when he built his technique, that would allow him to use his own energy to its fullest, with right usage of recuperation of mechanical energy for antagonistic muscles in cyclical movements. Maybe he would have had a stamina. And he's trying to be relaxed, but it's not enough for the goals that Guthrie set for himself in guitar playing. And that's why you would need to avoid things, play something different, take rest, etc. And he will never have good stamina with his position and technique that he practiced. So unfortunately, in stamina we put a minus to Guthrie. Yep, so minus. His position won't give it to you. That's why majority of guitarists tend to play legato and tapping licks, not because they don't want to play something different. None of them wants to have limitations in technique. It just requires some knowledge and understanding how things work, and each guitar player just avoids what he wants to play just because not being able to play it. I'm not saying that legato and tapping is bad. I love it. It's not about playing these things, it's about playing them instead of powerful alternate picking lick if you need it for your music in this exact moment in the track. Okay, so, and adding to those popular manipulations on the internet that how you hold your hand doesn't really matter at all, you know, you can all achieve everything playing how you feel comfortable. Alright, move your hand up, you killed the recuperation. Put your fingers on the pick guard, you kill it too. Turn your hand on just like 15-20 degrees here with straight movements in playing, you block it a lot. Bend your fingers into a fist like Gambali, you kill it too. So don't believe people who say that position and technique don't matter, and especially on amateurs and beginners who aren't used to avoid all those tons of problems each second. You'll get tired 10 times faster than Guthrie if you don't use efficient technique. So it matters a lot. Let's continue. Next thing is clean string switch. Well, here we can put minus because firstly we remember him playing that Gilbert's lick and he touched that extra string while switching. That's actually enough to put a minus here. He can't play it fully clean. If he skips one or two strings, there'll be a lot of problems. His string switches are actually not bad at all. That's true. In outside switch, he starts using economy picking very often. That actually limits his attack, since the speed of passing the string in economy picking is twice as slower than in alternate picking, because in economy picking the pick has to pass distance between one and another string. Okay, let me just draw it, okay? So we got two strings here. Imagine that if we got two strings here, okay, During the economy picking, to play two notes, you just have to pass this distance between these two strings and sweep it like this. So we play the downstroke and we continue this movement with the sweep, and we play the downstroke here too. And to play it with alternate picking, we have to firstly play this note with the downstroke here, then we avoid the string here and go back to play this note here with an upstroke. With this in mind, you understand that playing in the same tempo, the speed of your pick in economy picking will be twice as slower, since it has to pass twice as smaller distance during the same period of time. If we play in the same tempo. Therefore, the pick will spend twice as more time on the string trying to pass it, because its speed is twice as slower in economy picking. And the more time your pick spends on the string, the more this sort of sound you get. The attack is slower. If you slightly touch the strings when you play, if you play really soft, it doesn't really matter. You won't really hear a difference. But if you decide to add a little more power and lower the pick into the strings a little more, this is not a really good idea. If you listen to this audio, you will probably hear the difference between economy picking and alternate picking. On different sounds, you might hear the difference differently. Plus, it has a lot to do with quality of both techniques. I've seen some videos on YouTube with guys showing both techniques, but they just fucked up in both of them. Tense forearm, less attack, huge desynchronization. Well, if you have it, you better not try any of these two, because no difference. They both are gonna suck. So what about string switching? Well, first of all, this flexor is tensed, which means less control. Another finger on the pick guard, or fingers that block any rotation of your forearm. So the only thing in reserve is grip motion, like this. But all the problems with on this issue we're going to discuss with the next guest. So playing anything with outside switches and skipping strings, even 1-2 strings, you won't be able to avoid dirt and mess. So we don't even talk about stamina problems that lead to even bigger problems in the long run. So we have limitations in this part, so unfortunately it's minus. Yeah, it's minus. Many people think that they know everything about my string switching technique. Let's not make laugh of them. First of all, it won't work without other factors. Just leave them trying to get the same result in string switching, and after many years you can get back to them and laugh at their angry faces, because they still will be struggling and guessing what is wrong with them. Let just people think what they want. The next thing is depending on amount of notes on the string. Since other parts are minuses, you understand that it's not possible. There will be certain dependence if we talk quality of the sound. So we'll put minus because we don't have universalism here to play anything we want and get any sound that we want. With his technique and position, you can't afford it. Alright, we're finishing with Guthrie's technique. Let's take another cool guitar player. I think it's gonna be Martin Miller. Let's go. We start again. Can he mute strings whenever he wants? Yes, no problems with that. Stamina. Since in middle tempos he keeps the straight line for his forearm, doesn't bend fingers. Even if he would practice wrong, he would get a little better stamina than Guthrie. And in the same kind of sequences that we hear from Guthrie, he has more relaxation and it allows him to have better stamina. Let's have a look. Maybe it won't be the best ever because of keeping the finger on the pickguard, but other factors allow him to have better results in middle tempos than Guthrie. And why in middle tempos, but not fast tempos? Well, the reason is he uses different techniques for middle and fast tempos. So if it's slower than 160, 165, he uses the movement that engages the grip. Here. So there's double movement with the wrist and the grip as well. And in fast tempos, he just tenses the wrist joint area here and starts shaking it from an elbow.
When Martin can make pentatonic licks look quite a bit different.
He also engages the grip movement for inside switches. In his licks, we'll talk about it later, never mind. In faster tempos, he won't have good stamina, but there are so many other issues that you won't even think about stamina by the point when we talk about it. So that's why we'll put a plus and minus at the same time, because of pretty good stamina in middle tempos and certain limitations in faster tempos. And you will get the idea why we don't talk about it right here. So here we go, plus and minus. Okay, speed. Well, absolutely yes. Even tensed hand can shake pretty fast, so speed is plus. Then clean string switching. And here we get back to sides. In middle tempos up to 160, 165, this is real for his kind of technique, but in higher tempos we get problems. All his life, Martin is trying to avoid all outside switches totally, and changing all his licks so that he would have only inside switches there. He even changes the lick and plays legato on the last note on the string just to make the inside switch next. So the alternate picking in the middle tempos he does with half hopping motions engaging the grip. I'll show it on the guitar. With this extra movement of the grip, his way and his technique looks like this.
I can't get more than 3 reps now.
With my technique it would be somewhere around 180. Mine allows to play a little bit faster because of a little better trajectory of the movement, but we'll get to this point a little later. In higher tempos, bending the grip would be enough for inside switches, like this. Because of the rotation that is required for an inside switch is smaller, and grip bending is limited. You can't do an outside switch only with the grip. Like, you can't do this. That's why playing chromatics or scale, where he would turn his entire hand beforehand, he may go out of the strings cleanly or like this, and can play outside switch pretty good and clean. I didn't say he does, I said it's physiologically possible. But if it comes to pretty simple licks with returning on the previous string after the switch, like in Gilbert's lick, when you get back to a string after playing only one note on another string, here's where we get problems. To see it in real-life situations, let's take a few examples. Martin Miller is afraid of outside switching so much that I've watched more than 300 videos on his channel. I mean, yes, all of them, from the very beginning till the very end. I didn't find a single video where he would use outside switching in fast licks. Here's the only lick that I found that has outside switch. Well, it's not really fast lick, but even here it leads to pretty bad consequences. Even without immediate returning to previous string, like in Paul Gilbert's lick that we can see here, and we talked about it before. So even without it, in simple scales, in not really fast tempos, there are moments when he's touching unneeded strings again. The synchronization is almost everywhere, so we won't even talk about it at the moment. So you can hear the result of attempts to play outside switching his way. He can play some things not bad, like scales and certain licks with some amount of notes on the string and turning right hand beforehand. But even that is unfortunately very unstable and not in fast tempos where he almost always gets desynchronization and starts touching extra unneeded strings, like sweeping instead of switching strings. And unfortunately we can't even talk about skipping 1, 2 strings at all. This technique unfortunately will not offer you opportunity to skip strings in faster licks, so just forget it. Just like Guthrie's technique, if the tempo will be higher than their middle tempo, which is somewhere around 160, 165. Alright, the next video. If he was more relaxed in the area of wrist joint, his way of rotating the grip for inside switching would allow him to play it cleaner. But unfortunately, this tensed area leads to more tension in the whole hand, which blocks you from micro movements that are needed to play licks clean in faster tempos. So even in inside switchings, we hear string touching and desynchronization almost everywhere. That unfortunately affects the sound not in a good way at all. Now, next video. The elbow plus wrist joint, 2 joints in one movement. We already talked about it and what problems it might cause. Unfortunately, there's huge desynchronization and string touching almost everywhere and inside switches here. And the fourth video. Just totally the same. It just happens everywhere, so we can mathematically make a conclusion. Martin Miller, fast tempos. Outside switches, as in scales, pretty problematic and very unstable. Inside switches, also like in scales, unstable. If he had more relaxation in the wrist joint area, he would have better control and would definitely increase the quality and stability. Then inside switches with immediate return, like in Paul Gilbert's lick. Well, he could, but again, he ruined it. And I mean the stability for this kind of switches with the tension of wrist joint. Then outside switches with immediate return, like in Paul Gilbert's lick, just not possible, forget it. String skipping, also not possible, forget it. So playing some licks or phrases with string skipping totally clean and well with Martin's or Guthrie's technique. It would be just unreal for their technique, so let's just put minus here and continue next. Okay, yeah. Not depending from different amount of notes on the string. Well, his technique wasn't made to be independent from that, so he is dependent on amount of notes, unfortunately. Next, synchronization of hands. Having in mind that he uses different technique for different tempos. What he does in slow and middle tempos, he doesn't do that in higher tempos. Creating a program in your brain for really good and stable synchronization is maybe possible scientifically, but in reality, just like for Guthrie, it becomes almost unreal and just a long arm of coincidence, just luckiness. And luckiness isn't something that we like, right? Professionalism is not about luckiness. Khabib approves. That's why playing the same simple lick on one string like Guthrie did, the result is unfortunately as I said as with Guthrie.
I don't know.
Well, that's elbow now. Now your whole arm is moving there.
Okay.
He might think that the wrong pick caused that desynchronization, but no, it didn't. Another pick didn't help. By the way, I want to say that choice courses cost money. That's why I blurred that picture with Martin's right hand. I really respect Troy, his work, and he's a really nice guy. So if you want to see it, go buy his course. So in synchronization, unfortunately, we put minus here too. Control the dynamics. In middle tempos, yes. In higher tempos, problematic thing. Playing from an elbow that was created for one parallel movements, and his wrist and forearm are all tense here, so for micro movements you can easily forget it. Maybe you can do some accents with the help of grip, but again it will be limited, just like with string switching, because how can you control how much to lower the pick of the strings on each note if you can't even avoid the string in faster tempos to play clean? It's he's sweeping them instead of playing clean, so it won't be possible with this technique. So it's a plus for middle tempos and minus at the same time for faster tempos again. So we finished with Martin. We can say that his technique is a little bit more universal than Guthrie's because of better stamina in middle tempos according to laws of physiology, and we can easily see it on real examples. But in other aspects, it doesn't have full universalism too. It has a lot of limitations and it won't allow you to play lots of different things. Alright, let's move on and take another style. I think we're stuck with fusion guitar players. Let's take Jason Richardson. And we're starting over. Ability to mute strings whenever he wants. Yes, in his style, he mutes everything good and fast. His technique allows him to do it. Yeah. Alright. Stamina. Not really again. Just like Guthrie, bended fingers almost in a fist, hand up, killing of recuperation of mechanical energy, many different factors. But again, to play a mass, you can shake even tensed hand. But what's the point of playing a mass for a long time? There's a video where he played a Dream Theater solo, but there's a desynchronization and he touched extra strings all the time from the very beginning, and the quality of the video just it sounds isn't really good, so we can't take it as an example. To see the stamina, we need a lick when he starts playing it perfectly, and then in some time starts touching other strings and sound dirty. But unfortunately I didn't find any. By the way, would be cool if anyone knows videos of him like that. Would be interesting to analyze it. If someone knows it, send me. This technique is quite like Guthrie Govan's, so stamina problem is almost the same, but he doesn't put a finger on the pick guard, so he could get 10-20% better stamina than Guthrie here. Okay, so here unfortunately minus. Control dynamics. In faster tempos, not really. You already know the reasons and we discussed them before. In middle tempos, yes, he could, but there's a problem. He never did. I mean, I watched a lot of videos of him playing and I've never seen even a single example of dynamics at all. Maybe someone knows some songs or solos or interviews where he showed any example of his playing with dynamics. I just couldn't find any. Probably it's because of his style. I understand how he would do it with his technique, just never saw him even trying. So anyway, I know that in middle tempos, even a little faster tempos, his technique allows him to do it, but in faster tempos, again, a tense flexor muscle, and this tension will lead to losing control, especially on outside switches. So there are limits, and that's why we put a plus and minus here. Now, clean string switching. In middle tempos, yes, with certain modification it would be possible even in faster tempos. His technique has pretty good basics for that, including not having fingers on a pick guard. But right now, no, won't be possible. You will see everything by yourself. I will explain it later, but we put a little minus here, yeah. Speed. Yeah, he's fast. Not being dependent on amount of notes per string. Well, yeah, he often switches to economy picking instead of alternate pick scales. He wants to not have problems with string switching. Probably it's actually a problem if we think about it. But this decision is a little wrong in my opinion, because it doesn't really affect his playing, and I will explain and show you why a little later. Anyway, there are limitations in dependence, so we put a minus here, and plus in economy picking, it's got a little less control over dynamics. If I'm not mistaken, even Rick Graham said it, and he's, in my opinion, the best guitar player in the economy picking. But for one thing, we should definitely respect Jason. He'd rather play something dirty than avoid it, like other guitarists in the list who are always afraid to do what they can't, you know, avoiding all those weak moments. Jason is not that afraid to make a mistake, so Jason, respect for that, man, for not being a pussy. Synchronization. Well, his love to move a grip in middle and slow tempos, which means different technique in different tempos. Even though he's probably trying to practice very accurately, but angle of your wrist and lots of not cool gifts to your brain, that wouldn't let to get the best synchronization. Again, luckiness is taking place a lot, and if we listen to his playing, forget about lots of delays and effects. Just for instance, again, we're not talking things, we're doing things with our hands. Let's go. Or with his technique. You can easily hear the difference when the technique was designed to have better conditions for your brain. That's why synchronization will be a minus for his way of playing. Usually people don't think of technique that way. They're taking it as a whole thing, you know, and sometimes even think that metal style haircut changes something. But in reality, things can be analyzed mathematically. So if we talk about synchronization, even my student Will had better synchronization before he joined my academy, and we started changing his technique totally to a different one. It's a fact that you can hear. Just listen to it. Yes, it's not perfect, but it's better than Jason's one in this video. So anyway, I'm not talking about practice itself. I won't tell all the secrets and how it's done we're just making a superficial review, but it's unfortunately minus here. By the way, for economy picking, he is tensing the entire forearm and plays with the entire arm like this. Watch it his way. Alright, we continue with Yngwie Malmsteen. Starting over. Ability to mute strings whenever he wants. Yes, he can. Stamina. There are some limitations, little limitations. For instance, he puts a third finger on a pick guard very often, and whenever you put any fingers on guitar, it will lead to blocking the recuperation of mechanical energy. Roughly speaking, just hold your finger like this and try to move your hand. And you know, you get resistance, right? So you get it. The line of forearm is straight, good tension balance. It won't be blocked totally, but with certain practice it could be somewhere in the middle. So stamina will be not bad at all, but not best. I actually didn't really see Malmsteen playing any long run licks where he would show his stamina to its fullest. Mostly he's playing pretty short pieces, so we're putting it plus with a little minus here because hand turned into a guitar blocks it a little bit too. So as I said, not bad, but somewhere in the middle. Control of dynamics. You know, he's really good at it, and his technique allows him to do it. Unfortunately, not everywhere. He is modifying his licks to even number of notes on a string. Okay, it's gonna be a little plus. The thing is, he doesn't change way he plays in different tempos. He uses the same technique for slow and faster tempos. That's why control of dynamics will be better, even though he has certain limitations with certain string switches, but because of equal technique, his control of dynamics won't become worse or better on higher tempos. So that's why his control of dynamics will be better than all other guys in the list. Yeah, we have little minus for limitations in string switching, which means this dynamic control won't be everywhere, but it doesn't really matter here. So yeah. So he's better in that than all guys in the list. Yeah, just physiological thing. Now, clean string switching. He is using economy picking, and when using alternate picking, he's got his hand turned into guitar like this. So when he's playing even number of notes on a string, starting licks from downstroke, he would be able to go out of the strings after playing the upstrokes like this, and switch to a lower string or a higher string pretty clean because he just went out of the strings. But again, outside switches, especially if returning licks like Paul Gilbert's one, unfortunately, no. And by the way, even though you sometimes hear him play pretty dirty in economy picking, you have to keep in mind that Yngwie passed through very awful car accident, and he recovered and achieved this amazing level again after that. So this will always affect your hands and control. So this man is a hero. Yngwie, respect forever. So this technique allows him to play alternate picking licks with the hand turned into guitar, starting from downstroke, and economy picking licks that anyway would have a little worse attack, as we discussed before. So his technique looks like this. or other licks. There's some certain limitations, he always tries to avoid them, but they exist. So we can put a plus and minus because of not being able to play certain things clean. Not being dependent from amount of notes on the string. Unfortunately, in his technique there is dependence, so unfortunately minus. Does he play fast? Oh yes, he does. Synchronization of hands. And here's the interesting part. His technique is equal in slow and high tempos. Third finger on the pick guard, 10-15 degrees rotation, one joint movement. With smart practice, if we take some Alshin picking licks of Yngwie before the car accident, like this one. If we make a stats, Yngwie's synchronization is so many times more stable and better than this entire list. Despite the fact that there are certain limitations in the technique itself, talking about stability and quality of synchronization, version of Yngwie before the car accident destroys all this list of guitarists. Just kills them all. Roughly speaking, none of these guitar players have stable and powerful Alshin picking. Just none of these. So unfortunately, they weren't lucky with closed circle. So there was no one who could know some things and help explaining how those things work. So all of them are just trying to avoid problems. Well, except for Jason. He's brave, so respect Jason again, and huge respect for Yngwie forever for what he did. He did a lot, and if you just want to hear the difference.
Elbow now.
So here's the plus. Now, Michelangelo Badio. Ability to mute strings whenever he wants. In the middle tempos, I've seen him playing with Glushovka, but playing with a grip. But as soon as he starts playing fast, support on 3 fingers here on guitar body, wrist joint in the air here, 2 joint movement, it's the forearm from the elbow with the, plus a little bit of a grip motion. But he can't mute at this moment at all, so no muting in faster tempos. Sorry, it's a huge limitation. I can't condone it. Stamina. No. any movement down with the grip is getting resistance, an attempt to bend what naturally wasn't supposed to be bent at all. And this creates a resistance, and you're going to use more of a forearm work here. So you will understand why we won't even talk about this stamina here. So unfortunately it's minus. Control of dynamics. Yes, he can, but in fast tempos it's going to be a problem, because playing from an elbow, again, we already discussed the problems and why you can't control micro movements with it that well. It's pretty massive and heavy object, so there's only hope on grip motion, but he can't even switch strings cleanly. The same way he won't be able to control the dynamics that has the same principle of lowering the pick into the strings. So in faster tempos it's going to be a minus. In middle tempos, yes, so possibly again it's a minus and plus at the same time. Speed. Well, I'll put a plus and minus here, and I will explain why. He is slower than all other guitarists in the list yet. So with lots of effects, it might seem fast, but it's still slower than others. For instance, if we take his technique and play something like what he plays. Or with my technique. It's not middle tempo, of course, but it's not super fast. So I've never seen him play a lot faster than 180, 195, around this tempo. So the more you use the grip while playing, the harder it will be to play fast. Well, the resistance of first finger that wasn't supposed to be bent like this, and weakness of these muscles compared to those that move our hand or the elbow, doesn't matter. So we get what we get. Unfortunately, they will get tired pretty fast, and everything comes together. So it's a plus and minus, because it's pretty fast but not enough to be in the top list of the speed. Okay, so yeah, plus and minus. Clean string switching. Again, in scales, it may be possible when you turn your hand into guitar or out of the guitar beforehand, and it helps to not touch strings in the switch. But in fast tempos, because of the weight of this entire construction, and plus fatigue in the muscles that you get pretty quickly because of attempts to bend what in nature wasn't supposed to be bent, plus fingers on the guitar body that block the wrist rotations and hand rotations. Almost in all string switches he touches the strings a lot. And usually some amount of cover-ups like effects and etc. So we got minus here, unfortunately. Not depending on the amount of notes on the string. Inside switch with the grip is easier, so we talked about it before. Outside is harder, everything's not stable, licks with immediate return, not even talking about it. So the same technical limitations that Martin Miller had. So there are certain things that are not possible if you want to play clean. So unfortunately dependent, so minus. Synchronization of hands. Here we got two joints in the movement, forearm plus the grip. Double load on our brain, but get ready to be surprised. He tried to work in slow tempos just like he planned to work fast. He even mentioned that it's important in his instructional videos. And this is very, very smart. That's why, despite the fact that he got 2-joint motion, his synchronization is still better than other guitarists in the list, except Malmsteen. His sync is better still. So Michael's sync is better, but a little bit unstable. 2-joint movement never gives you 100% guarantee, and tempos are not that fast. So yes, it's a little better, but still lacks quality. 2-joint movement, twice as more processes in your brain. Again, we're talking about a certain level of luckiness. Plus, wrong practice routine and exercises were probably used. I don't know, but for instance, I would still have a little better sync even with his technique and this 2-joint motion. Because knowing some science tricks behind it, even this door will be open for you.
Trade secrets, my son.
So that's why we've got plus and minus here. Because yes, it's better than first 3 guitarists, and smart approach always gives good results. Now, Marty Friedman. Oh, this guy is really interesting only because you'll never ever see that sort of technique anywhere else. But unfortunately, this leads us to limitations. Anyway, okay, let's start. Ability to mute strings whenever you want. No. How can he mute anything when in this position his hand isn't even there? How? There's no way for it, so no universalism here. I'm sorry. Minus. Stamina. Well, no. All flexors are tense here. There can't be any stamina, unfortunately. Dynamics. Well, in slow tempos it's not hard to lower the picking of the strings, but in higher tempos there are huge limitations, so we're not even talking about dynamics. But alright, I will put plus and minus because of possibility to make it in slow tempos. Yeah, okay. Alright. Speed. Well, we can't even talk about it because I have no economy or alternate picking to discuss. So, too many limitations. Minus. Clean string switching. We almost got no picking to discuss, so no, minus. Not being dependent on the amount of notes on the string. He is dependent. If you need to play something that you can only play with alternate picking, you can't. It's dependent. Okay, synchronization. Well, all flexors in the hand he could find, he tensed them all. But that wasn't enough for him. He started engaging the grip motion. So no, it's not gonna work, and it doesn't. You can immediately hear the lack of Plushovka. Everything's noisy, lots of problems anyway, so it's just physics. You can't do a thing with it. And it approximately looks like this. So you're getting extremely close to monsters of guitar. I know, I am. Rick Graham. Ability to mute strings whenever he wants. Yes, he can, no problem. Stamina. He almost didn't play with pure alternate picking, but his hand is straight, really good balance of tension and relaxation. Fingers are not in a fist. If he puts some fingers on guitar while playing the alternate picking, that would block the stamina a bit, but you can notice that in fast licks they're moving, so they're not fixed in one position all the time, and angle is good. Well, with certain practice, his position and technique allows him to have very good stamina. Control dynamics. Yes, he can. Mostly he uses the mix of alternate picking and economy picking. All outside switches he plays with economy, all inside ones with alternate picking. Therefore, he at least doubled amount of notes where he can use dynamics better. Because proper alternate picking with Rick's and my hand's position can afford better control of dynamics in alternate, probably is going to be pretty hard to control dynamics only with switching strings with economy. Just imagine on how to dive a pick into the strings on each note in this economy sweep. Maybe scientifically it's possible, but in real world you would probably never see it happen. And even Rick said to one of his students that I know personally to never allow any technique, including economy picking, stay on a way of music. So if you need dynamics, any sound, don't allow any technique, including economy picking or legato problem, doesn't matter. Don't allow anything stay on a way between you and music. Music is the goal. His technique allows to do it, and I will put a plus and a question. Plus, because in majority of cases he can, and question I will explain a little later. Speed. Yes, he is fast as hell. Clean string switching. If I'm not mistaken, he said that he worked with alternate picking just like almost any other technique on guitar, and he even tried to make economy picking sound as aggressive as alternate picking. He plays everything clean. Economy picking, clean. Inside switches, very clean. And here's the question about outside switch. Can he do it now? I don't know. His technique, his position, his tension balance, everything allows him to do it. Did he practice outside switches in alternate picking or not? I just don't know. With certain work he can do it, and don't look at his grip bending in economy picking. It's not for alternate picking, so it's a different technique. So I will probably put a plus here and give him certain respect for playing everything very clean, even cleaner than Paul Gilbert. I will explain it later. So plus and question, because we can't know some things and can't discuss it. Not depending on amount of notes on the string. Again, if he practiced outside switches, he's not dependent on that at all. So again, we put a plus and a little question on that one switch, that only switch. So here we go. Plus and question. He's trying to play everything perfectly. So all questions are always because of economy picking, you see, and its limitations again. So plus and question. Synchronization. Well, he's probably one of those very accurate practicing guys, and one joint movement in alternate, very accurate practice equals really good synchronization. That's why technically Rick is the smartest guitarist from all this list, and developed better than any of them. It's just incredible work, and Rick, just respect, man. So you feel the power, right? And now let's try to play something close to what Rick plays with his technique. Or with alternate picking. Maybe we'll try some cyclical licks. Or sequences. Next, Paul Gilbert. Starting over. Ability to mute strings whenever he wants. Yes. Stamina. He even had a wrist dance. He probably had pretty smart guys who could professionally consult him, even though he would never admit it. Just like that bullshit that you just need to play his 4-note exercise the way you feel comfortable and one day become as good as him. Yeah, mother. So it's a plus here. Control dynamics. Yes, and almost in any tempo. Speed. Well, I'm tired of drawing pluses. Clean string switching. No. On the frets that don't have flageolet, it might somehow work, but on 5th, 7th, 9th, 12th, and etc., it's always dirt. So skipping strings fast and clean, unfortunately, especially with returns, just forget it. A little minus here. Not depending on the amount of notes on the string. No dependent. Synchronization. Yes. Yeah, guys, that's why majority of those who are called virtuosos are not even close to Paul. I've showed the switches with his technique already, so let's continue. So we're coming with our scientifically well thought out Russian technique that I'm teaching in my academy. Let's start it. Ability to mute strings whenever you want. Yes. Stamina. Yes. Control of dynamics. Yes, in any speed. Speed. Yes. Clean string switching. Yes. Even number of notes. Odd number. Skipping one string. Skipping 2 strings. 3 strings. 4 strings. 5 strings. Even 6 strings.
I don't give a shit.
Clean and even with dynamics. Yes. Not depending on amount of notes on the string. No dependence. Synchronization of hands. Yes. Even the ability to play economy picking if you want it so much. So, Therefore, we can make a scientifically well thought out conclusion. Rick Graham's technique is the best British technique that ever existed, and in some things that is even cleaner than Paul Gilbert's one, and that means a lot, believe me. We should admit that he is smarter and better than other guys in the list. Paul Gilbert is definitely the best American technique that ever existed. Control, dynamics, speed, everything else is good. And to motherland, comrades. All right. I'm just kidding. So what we see here, these guys proved what is what with their hands, not mouth like many bloggers. Sometimes people think that to understand how it all works, you need to try thousands of physiologically stupid techniques to find out how it works. But for the last like 80 or 100 years, when people started researching in this physiological area, they already know one and only correct natural motion for each joint and muscle in our body and how it all works. And the only question is whether you can use this knowledge for yourself and profession or not. So, dear subscribers, many teachers on the internet, YouTube, bloggers who tell people so stupid things like how you hold a pig, how you hold your hand, it all doesn't matter. These guys have probably the best techniques in the world, and they are equal on 90%. So the difference is just those 10%. Well, except Marty Friedman, he's a very special guy. Yeah, I know. But anyway, imagine if the deviation from what is optimal would be more than 10%. Even only these 10% sometimes gives us totally opposite results and pretty big limitations. And it was only 1/10 part that is different. What will happen if the deviation from the optimal would be more than 10%? A lot of problems. Many people want to learn to play guitar and want to play in the style they want, and some coaches who just say, oh come on man, oh man, it all doesn't matter, please, like, play how you feel comfortable, man. These manipulators ruin their lives because in the very beginning a student doesn't really know what he has to learn and be able to play the music he likes to play and he wants to play. He doesn't know that. Any guitar coach has to explain him, show him what is what, so that the student would say, yes, this is what I want, yes, this is what I want, and maybe I don't want to play that and will never in the future. And the coach should read that list of all those things that his student wants and understand which technique from the list, or all others, there's thousands of them, which one would fit the student's goal and offer him that, and which one would be so stupid that the student will probably spend years and years and years on and on trying to play things that he will never be able to play with the technique of certain guitarists maybe that this coach likes a lot. And relearning after you got some stupid habits, damn, this is my god, it's incredibly hard. And depending on the habits that you had, sometimes it's even harder to relearn than learn as a beginner, depending on habits, of course. But if this coach doesn't know that, I don't know how he will control student, teach him, because he doesn't understand how it works by himself, how it works and what will be the final destination with each technique. He'll never tell you that you might lose years on certain techniques that will never bring you to your goal. They won't even show you that with their hands. This is a huge amount of information, personal experience, etc. And when you ask a coach, like, Mr. Coach, like, tell me please what this technique does, what this technique does, what this technique does, because of lacking of knowledge and experience, the coach just says, dude, it's just comfortable for him, you know, I feel comfortable playing like this, there's no universal ways. Like, you just play these 4 notes and you'll be fine, buddy. Of course they can't say, I don't know, I can't play it, so shut up. Well, they won't get paid for that, right? And now I hope you understand better what is guitar technique, and that it's just simple manipulation of those who unfortunately don't know a lot about technique and don't have experience in that. And it actually has a huge influence on what you will be able to play or not be able to play even after years of practice. And for those who never practiced, like for example Guthrie Govan did, every little thing will affect them even more. Guthrie, after like decades of incredible practice, starts playing a simple lick on one string and there are problems already. So imagine what will happen to you without those decades of practice. Yes, many people don't understand how hard you have to work, but even best guitarists can't avoid the laws of physics and physiology. They all have limitations that all of them would want to get rid of. All those maneuvers between what you can and can't. Nobody ever wanted that. Also, you now understand that it's a manipulation tool that every guitar player can only teach you the way he plays guitar, because he allegedly can't do anything else and doesn't know shit about it. I showed you that I can play things not only with my technique but also with any of their techniques, because I understand the physics of the process. Play with their technique on the guitar, what they play on the guitar, and also showed you that it's possible to take one universal technique and play everything they all played on the guitar and still have some more abilities and universal pluses and reserve, like in case with Guthrie now and others. So if you actually understand how it works and can play it all, not only I can teach you my way and technique. If someone wants Guthrie's technique, I'll teach you that. Well, I don't know, why would you tell me that I want only his technique and nothing else, just only his? But if you say so, alright. Maybe you want Martin Miller's technique. No problem. Maybe Michelangelo Baggio. Sure. No problem. I will show you that, explain that, demonstrate that by myself, lead you and heal you from your bad habits. No problem. Maybe someone wants only economy picking. No problem. But never met anyone like that. Whenever you ask someone, do you want this limitation? No. Maybe you want this limitation, man? No. Nobody wants limitations. So after we did this research and after talked about all of this, I will probably take some responsibility to say that there is universal technique, and it's more than real and proved with these hands, not with words. And you know what? To make it like scientists like to doubt even 100% proved facts, I will pretend that everything I said today, everything I played today, everything I showed, demonstrated, is just bullshit. I will leave a 1,000th part of percent that I'm totally wrong. I'm gonna leave it to this. All my knowledge and things that I said are proved with my own hands. Because if something doesn't work in real life, in real world, all that knowledge, all those thoughts and all that science, it's all bullshit if it doesn't work in real world. So I proved all of this works in real life with real hands. I'm more than sure that with this one universal technique, I will play anything what any guitar coach plays. And I will leave this 1,000th part of a percent on opportunity for coaches like that, if their students ask them to prove what they say with their own hands, not just words, that those coaches take their guitar in their hands, take any or all of these different techniques. No. Let's give them a little chance. Let's just let them take a technique that is comfortable for them, and let them play to you with the full quality, at least what I played on the guitar.
Boy tried to rush the throne. Lord, they threw him down in hell there all alone. And now he builds a castle out of the sinner's bones. You'd be angry too if you could could not make his heart believe. He could see that Jesus had some tricks up his sleeve. He said, now, oh man, Jesus, I can't do things your way, but I could see you work for somebody big, so I'm back in your place. Old man Nicodemus, his pockets, they were deep. And on the day the Romans